Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you all are doing well by the grace of the Almighty. This is Azharul Islam, Assistant Teacher, Adamji Cantonment Public School. Welcoming you all to ACPS online class. Today we are going to discuss about a very important part of transformation of sentences, and that is affirmative to negative. That means today we are going to see how to transform an affirmative sentence into a negative sentence. So let's get started. Rule 1. When only or alone refers to people or the creator, then we have to use none but. When only or alone refers to things, then we have to use nothing but. And when only or alone refers to any number or age, then we have to use not more than. Now let's make it clear with some examples. Only Allah can help us. Dear students, if you notice in this sentence, only stands for Allah, that is the Creator. And according to the rule, we know that if only refers to the Creator, then we have to use none but instead of only. That's why the negative of this sentence becomes none but Allah can help us. Here we have just replaced only with none but, and there is no other change in this sentence. Let's see another example. You alone can do it. Its negative form is none but you can do it. In this sentence, alone stands for you, that is a person. For this reason, we have used none but instead of alone. Let's see another example. The girl likes only chocolates. If you notice here, in this sentence, the word only refers to chocolates. That means an object or a thing. And according to the rule, we know that if only refers to things or objects, then we have to use nothing but instead of only. And that's why in this sentence we have used nothing but instead of only, and the sentence becomes the girl likes nothing but chocolates. Again, there are only 2 books on the table. In this sentence, only refers to a number, that is 2 books. And because here only refers to a number, that's why we have to use not more than instead of only. And that is why the negative form of the sentence becomes there are not more than 2 books on the table. So dear students, like the examples shown here, we have to use none but instead of only or alone when they refer to any people or the creator, and we have to use nothing but instead of only or alone when it refers to any things or objects, and we have to use not more than instead of only or alone when it refers to any number or age. Rule 2. If there is both ... and in any affirmative sentence, then we have to use the structure not only ... but also. That means instead of both we have to use not only, and instead of and we have to use but also. And in this way we can transform any affirmative sentence into negative. For example, Habib likes both tea and coffee. Its negative form is Habib likes not only tea but also coffee. If you notice here, in this sentence, we have just replaced both with not only, and we have replaced and with but also. Besides these two changes, there is no other change in this sentence. Now let's see another example. He and his friends made the plan. Dear students, this sentence is actually a bit tricky. This is because here we have only and, both is not given here. But if you observe the sentence carefully, then you can see that we can actually use both in this sentence. Instead of the given sentence, we can say both he and his friends made the plan. So you have to think that both is there, though it is not given here. And for this reason, the negative form of this sentence becomes not only he but also his friends made the plan. That is, we have assumed that both is there before the subject, and that's why we have used not only before the subject, and instead of and we have used but also. There is no other change in this sentence. Rule 3. If there is must or have to in an affirmative sentence, then while making it negative, we have to follow the given structure. That is, instead of must or have to, we have to use cannot but, then we have to use VIII, that is base form of the verb. Or we can follow another structure, that is we can use cannot help, then we have to use the ing form of the verb. That means we have to add ing with the main verb. So we can use any of the two structures shown here. Let's make it clear with some examples. You must do the work. Its negative form is you cannot but do the work. Here, instead of must, we just have used cannot but. Then VIII, here the main verb is do, so it remains unchanged. Let's see another example. We must respect our teachers. In this sentence, we have followed the second structure, that is, we have used cannot help, and according to this structure, we know if we use cannot help, then we have to add ing with the main verb. Here the main verb is respect, that's why we have used ing with the verb respect, and it becomes respecting. So the complete sentence becomes we cannot help respecting our teachers. So whenever there is must or have to in any affirmative sentence, then we can use any of the two structures shown here. We can use cannot but, or we can use cannot help, but the only difference is if we use cannot but, then we have to put the base form of the verb, but if we use cannot help, then we have to add ing with the main verb. Rule 4. If there is any adjective in an affirmative sentence, then while making it negative, we have to use not plus opposite word of the given adjective. That means if any adjective is there in an affirmative sentence, then we have to use an opposite word of the given adjective, and before that we have to use not. And this is how we can transform an affirmative sentence into negative. Let's make it clear with some examples. Asif is an industrious boy. Its negative form is Asif is not a lazy boy. Here, industrious is an adjective because it refers to a quality, or in other words we can say it is actually modifying the noun boy, and we know any word that modifies a noun is an adjective. According to the structure, we have to use an opposite word of the given adjective, and we know the opposite word of industrious is lazy, so we have used lazy, but before that we have used not. That's why the complete sentence becomes Asif is not a lazy boy. Similarly, Nila is attentive to her lesson. Here the word attentive is an adjective because it refers to a quality. So in this sentence as well, we have used an opposite word of the word attentive, that is inattentive, and before that we have used not. And thus the complete sentence becomes Nila is not inattentive to her lesson. Rule 5. If there is the word always in an affirmative sentence, then while making it negative, we have to use never instead of the word always. And after never, we have to use opposite word of the main word. Let's see some examples. I shall always remember you. Its negative form is I shall never forget you. So if you notice here, in this sentence we have the word always, and according to the structure we know we have to replace always with never, and that is what we did here. We have used never instead of the word always, and then here the main word is remember, and here we have to use an opposite word of the word remember, and we know the opposite word of remember is forget. That's why we have used forget. Similarly, he is always obedient. Its negative form is he is never disobedient. So in this sentence as well, we have used never instead of the word always, and then we have used opposite word of the word obedient, that is disobedient. Rule 6. If any affirmative sentence starts with the word every, then we have to follow the given structure, and the structure is there is no ... but. Let's make it clear with some examples. Every mother loves her child. You see here the sentence starts with the word every, and that's why we have to use the given structure. That means instead of every we have to use there is no, then we have to use the word that is given after the word every, and then we have to use but. So this is what we did here, and that's why the negative form of this sentence becomes there is no mother but loves her child. Similarly, every rose has a thorn. So in this sentence as well, we have used there is no instead of the word every, then we have used the word rose, and then according to the structure we have used but and the rest of the sentence without any change. Rule 7. If any affirmative sentence starts with the phrase as soon as, then we have to follow the given structure, and the structure is we have to use no sooner had instead of the phrase as soon as. Then we have to use VIII, that is past participle form of the verb, and then we have to use then in between the two clauses given in the sentence. Let's see some examples. As soon as the bell rang, we entered our classroom. Its negative form is no sooner had the bell rung than we entered our classroom. Here we have replaced the phrase as soon as with no sooner had. Then we have the subject the bell, so it remains unchanged, and then VIII, here the verb is rang, its VIII is rung, so we have used rung, and then in the middle of the two given clauses we have used then, and the rest of the sentence remains unchanged. Similarly, as soon as we got into the train, it started to move. its negative form is no sooner had we got into the train than it started to move. So in this sentence as well, we have used no sooner had instead of as soon as. Then we have the subject we that remains unchanged, that we have used V3, that is got. Actually V2 and V3 of the word got is the same, that's why you see no change here. Then the rest of the sentence remains unchanged. The only change is in between the two given clauses we have used then. Rule 8. If there is any proverb or any universal truth, then while making it negative, we have to make it interrogative plus negative. That is, we cannot really make any proverb or universal truth negative, and that is why we have to make it negative interrogative. For example, health is wealth. Its negative form is, isn't health wealth? Because health is wealth is a proverb, we cannot actually make it negative, and that's why we have made it negative interrogative. That means we have put the auxiliary verb is at the beginning of the sentence and we have added not with this verb, and thus it has become isn't. And at the end of the sentence we have used a question mark because this is a negative interrogative sentence. Similarly, the sun rises in the east. Its negative form is, doesn't the sun rise in the east? So in this sentence as well, we have used doesn't, because in this sentence actually there is no auxiliary verb, and we know in simple present tense if there is no auxiliary verb we can use don't or doesn't. Because the subject is here the sun, that is third person singular number, that's why we have used doesn't. And at the end of the sentence we have used a question mark. Rule 9. If there is the word many in affirmative sentence, while making it negative, we have to replace the word many with not a few. And if the word much is there in an affirmative sentence, then we have to replace it with not a little. That means many will be replaced with not a few and much will be replaced with not a little. And there should be no other change. For example, there are many people in the meeting. Its negative form is, there are not a few people in the meeting. Here, if you notice, instead of the word many, we have used not a few. And except this change, there is no other change in this sentence. Similarly, there is much water in the pond. Its negative form is, there is not a little water in the pond. So here as well, we have used not a little instead of much. And there is no other change in this sentence. Dear students, that's all about our lesson today. I hope you have understood all the rules discussed here. Still, if you have any question, please feel free to share with me in the comment section. I will try to answer to your comments as soon as possible. Thank you everyone for being with me.